Good day, everyone! It's Tuesday, and you know what that means. It's time to get back to the build. So grab your coffee, open up your shit, and let's dive back in and command your operations. Now let's talk about expanding our network. If you're using additional fulfillment centers or a secondary distribution hub, we're going to build out the same exact infrastructure for them. Even though standard warehouse operates differently than Amazon, the architecture of our engine remains exactly the same. We still need our 4 core blocks, which are inventory, sales, lease of stocks, and the replenishment. Here is how we adopt the layout. So a simpler inventory block, Amazon requires us to track highly complex subcategories like research processing and various inbound phases. But for a standard additional fulfillment center, your raw data is usually much cleaner. You generally only need 2 main columns here, your on-hand or your available, and inbound. Together, this makes up your total inventory. So sales and days of stocks remains constant. So the formula we just build for your daily sales of rates and your days of stocks work in university, the math doesn't change, so we use the same exact automated setup. So the strategic parameter adjustments, which you can find on top of these columns, this is where you have to put your operations manager hat on. The formula remains the same, but the variables will change for every warehouse in your network. Like for the lead time, this will vary well depending on the facility's location and the processing speed. So a hub might have a short 3-day lead time, while a cross-states facility might need 15 days or more. So how about the replenishment point? You dictate this based on storage cost and REIS. For example, if this specific fulfillment center offers highly discounted storage rates, it makes financial sense to increase your safety stock instead of sending stock so frequent. So it's up to you which is cheaper when you compute your cost. You would set a higher replenishment point because storing the extra offer is not eating into your margins. Or if the storage is premium, you lower your point and run lean. Now let's talk about the fuel that powers this entire automation engine, the raw data tabs. These tabs are where you will dump the live reports that update your inventory and sales metrics. Depending on your sales volume and replenishment frequency, you should be dropping fresh data into these tabs either daily or weekly. So let's start to build our warehouse inventory raw data tab. So as you can see on the screen, we keep this extremely clean, which is for essential columns. The item code, this is your unique identifiers. It is critical that is precisely match the SKU in your master data tab because this is what our lookup parameters will use to pull the inventory counts. The item name, these are the standard product description references. The available, these are the run number of physical units currently sitting on the shelves and ready to be deployed. The warehouse name is a specific location code. If your operation is scaling and you're managing stock across multiple primary warehouses, this column ensures your Snapshot tab attributes inventory to the correct build. Next, let us build our in-transit and in-production raw data tab. If the previous tab tracked what you currently have on the ground, this tab tracks your future inventory. These are the purchase orders that you have already placed with your suppliers. The unit might currently be rolling off the manufacturing lines, sitting on a cargo ship, or clearing customs. Why is this step so critical? Because if you don't accurately track what is already on the way, your replenishment engine will think you are out of stock and tell you to place another order. That is how e-commerce business accidentally overorder and tie up all their cash flow in dead stock. So this step prevents that. The data you dump into the sheet will feed directly into the in-transit summary column we built on our main snapshot page. So let's break down the exact format you need to use here. So again, we have the item code, just like the warehouse data, which will be our basis for the lookup formula. So the name is for the reference, the quantity, the total number of units for this specific production run or inbound shipment. The warehouse is the destination. If you use multiple facilities, this column tells the spreadsheet exactly which warehouse is going to receive these units. So the ETA, or the estimated time of arrival, is the date you expect these goods to bump the dock at your warehouse. This is crucial for calculating if your current lease of supply will last until the new shipment arrives. So the final column is the week. When you're managing global supply chains, tracking inbound straight by the exact date can create too much noise on your reports, especially if you're ordering much inventories. Or for macro-level planning, we want to group our incoming shipments by week, so this minimizes the volume of data you have to look at. For example, any shipment arriving between Monday, August 26th, and Sunday, September 1st, will simply be tagged as arriving the week of August 26th. So you save 6 columns in here. So to automate this grouping, we're going to build a quick back-end sheet called the Input tab. Think of this tab as your system calendar dictionary. So let's start building the Input tab. So the Input tab contains 3 simple columns: the start date, the end date, and the week date reference. Here's how we set up the map so you never have to type these dates out manually. So start date, type in the first day of your operational week. For me, that is Monday, so I will type the day is August 26th. So the end date, we want a 7-day window. So in the end date column, we simply write a formula that says start date plus 6. This automatically gives us Sunday, September 1st. So the next row, to generate the following week, we go to the next start date cell and type preview start date on top plus 7. Now highlight those formula cells and drag them all the way down for the next year or two. You instantly have a perpetual calendar, and remember, this is fully customizable. If your business week starts on Sunday instead of Monday, just change the very first date and the entire sheet will recalculate. So finally, in the week reference column, we just set it to mirror the start date. So every date in that 7-day window is assigned to the week of August 26th. So let's go back to the raw data. We have to connect this calendar back to our logistics data. So any date that falls starting August 26th to September 1 will fall on August 26th, so we use the formula lookup. Then we click our lookup value, which is our ETA, and then our lookup factor, so the start date and the end date, and the result factor will be our week reference. So let's change the format. So meaning September 10th falls on the week of September 9th. So let's check that. So September 9th to September 15th. So this is where those September 10th falls. So it falls under the week reference of September 9th. So now let's start to build our FC1 MFBA. If you're using Amazon FBA, this exact layout is going to look very familiar. This is the standard inventory report you download directly from Seller Central. I did not remove any more some of the columns not needed since the file is just small and only gets to today's inventory, but it's still up to you if you want to edit and delete bulk column. You simply download the report, copy all the data, and paste it directly into this tab starting from the ISKIR column. So Amazon gives us very granular breakdown here. It splits out stock into AFN fulfillable quantity, what is ready to sell, AFN reserve quantity, what is moving or tied to an order, and 3 separate inbound columns, working, ship, and receiving. While that level of details is great, it's too messy to pull directly into our clean inventory snapshot. So, to keep our main dashboard fast and lightweight, I have engineered custom helper columns. Notice the highlighted column, Total FC1 Inbound and Total FC1. This column contains formula that instantly grabs your sellable AFN fulfillable quantity. In this example, it pulls 480 units directly over. So inbound, this formula automatically groups all 3 Amazon inbound metrics, the working, the ship, and the receiving, into one key number. Here it found 60 units and receiving and rolled them up for us. So the total, finally it sums up what is on the shelf and what is on the dock, giving us Biponic PART2 total units. So the FC1 reserve. So let us start building the reserve inventory tab. So when you download your reserve stock report from Amazon, they give you a total reserve quantity, but not all reserve inventory is created equal. We have to treat units moving between warehouses very differently than units that are already sitting in customer shopping cart. Let us look at how we structure this data dump. On the left side, we have our standard mapping columns, SKU, code 1, code 2, and the product name. Once again, these are here to ensure the data perfectly align with our master data architecture. In the middle, you will piece the raw column exactly as Amazon exports them. So these are the columns, the reserve quantity. This is the master total of all tied up stock in our example here. It's 2,096 units. So we serve customer orders. These are units actively being packed into boxes for buyers. We serve FC transfers. These are the units on trucks moving between Amazon facilities. And the reserve FC processing, these are the units sidelined for internal Amazon warehouse check. Now look at the blue column on the far right, total reserve. This is custom helper column that powers our automated tracking engine. Where did that number come from? The formula in this column is purposely only adding together the FC transfer and the FC processing units. It completely ignores the customer orders. We build it this way because those customer orders are effectively gone. They're already sold and won't help you fulfill any future demands. So by isolating only the transfer and the processing units, our master snapshot tab will accurately read this as future sellable inventory. Just like our other tabs, our only job is to drop the raw Amazon report into the white columns, then the blue columns instantly execute the logic, keeping your replenishment calculations laser accurate. Let's start building our FC1 sales tab. Here on my Excellency 9.3, our entire goal is turning raw data into automated tracking engines. And this next tab is currently how we do that for your sales velocity. This shit is your 30D order raw data dump. It is the exact tab that powers the 7D and 3D sales rate column on your main inventory snapshot. Without this data, your template cannot calculate how fast you're selling, which means it cannot tell you when to replenish. So look at how this shit is structured starting at the very top. Since our example for Fulfillment Center 1 is Amazon, we're using the standard Amazon 30-day sales download format. Now you will notice I have removed few default columns. Deleting entire columns in bulk just to save space and decrease your file size is perfectly fine, as long as you aren't manually typing or changing individual cell values, which are prone to errors. So deleting unnecessary columns keep your sheet lightweight and fast. Before we look at the data, notice this prominent instruction row at the top. Change the date every time current 30 days is uploaded, so I place this want to remind you whenever you download your past 30 days of sales from Seller Central and paste it here, you must update this single cell to today's date. By doing this, you're giving the spreadsheet a reference point, so its automated formula knows exactly which sales falls into the last 7 days bucket. Now let's look at the columns below. This is a mix of your raw exported data and our automated helper columns. So the raw export, which consists of purchase date, order status, SQ, and quantity, these are your standard raw data columns. You simply download your all orders report from Amazon, delete the unnecessary columns, and paste the remaining data directly into these unshaded columns on the top. The helper columns, which consists of the date and the date codes, raw dates export from Amazon can be messy and hard for lookup formulas to read, so we've built these helper columns on the far left to clean things up automatically. How to know which among the line items were purchases within the last 7 days? That is a formula working on the background. It looks at the purchase date, compares it to your anchor date at the top, and automatically tags this row as L7 if the sales happened in the last 7 days. To create this logic under column E, type the formula LA you see on the screen. We simply subtract the date you made the sale from the current anchor date. We wrap that in an if formula so that if the result is less than or equal to 7, it returns the text L7, which means last 7 days. We don't need to write a separate formula for the 30-day time frame because everything you dump into this tab is inherently from the last 30 days. Next, under column B, we added another helper column for our gate code reference. Using the formula flashing on your screen, this cell automatically extracts just the month and the year from the purchase date, formatting it cleanly for a tracking engine. By setting it up this way, your only manual task every week is to paste the raw data and update the date at the top. Are you getting value from this tutorial so far? If so, don't forget that you can download the exact template we're building right now completely free. Just look for the link in the pinned comment below. But remember, it's only free for the first 100 people who grab it, so make sure you claim yours. Now, if your business is scaling and you're outgrown a single fulfillment center, you might need something a bit more advanced. I've engineered a premium enterprise-grade inventory management ecosystem that handles up to 3 separate fulfillment centers simultaneously. It features live in-transit stock tracking, advanced replenishment dashboards, and fully automated purchase order engine that calculates exactly how much to order from your suppliers, when to place the order to avoid warehouse stockouts, and your optimal ordering frequency. If you want to take your operational command to the next level, click the premium link in the description. It's available right now at a very affordable price, along with our full catalog of specialized supply chain and automation templates. Now that we are done with the primary fulfillment center tab, we move to our next node in the network, which is the fulfillment center to raw data. So let's build our FC2 on-hand tab. So by default, we have set this tab up to follow a standard 3PL export format, but the beauty of this template is that you can completely customize these headers based on the actual raw data reports your specific warehouse gives you. So let's look at the columns on the screen. Unlike Amazon's FBA terminologies, this looks much more like a traditional report. If your secondary warehouse uses these terms, here's exactly how they map to our master system. The SKU inventory ID and inventory name. Just like our other tabs, these are your standard identifiers. Incoming, this is your inbound freight. These are the units you have shipped to this warehouse that have not been received into active inventory. The fulfillable, this is the true number of units you have left to sell. Sometimes other fulfillment centers or warehouse have their own coding system, so we download and access this to their system. We only have their codes as identifiers. In order to match their codes with your internal code, The fulfillment center codes should also be on your master data, so you can easily use VLOOKUP back to your internal codes. Same as what we did in this tab, where we add a column helper here on the leftmost column. So once we dump the CSV data from the 3PL system, it automatically runs the internal code VLOOKUP formula. Finally, we have reached our very last raw data tab. This tab holds the 30-day order history for that specific fulfillment center. Let's build our tab. Similar to FC1 raw data sales, we have an anchor date for our entire automation engine. It tells the spreadsheet what's the date when you download a data. So if you forget to update this when you dump in fresh data, your formula won't work. Which sales happened in the last 7 days versus the last 30 days. So if those averages are wrong, your replenishment alerts will be wrong. So make it a habit, paste the data, and update this day. So let's look at the structure. It operates exactly like our primary sales tab. It utilizes a mix of raw export columns and custom helper columns. So the raw export, which are found on the right side, you have here the standard purchase date, the source, the order status, the line item name, and the line item quantity. So as always, do not touch these columns manually. Just space your warehouse export directly under these headers. The helper columns, which are on the left side, so they found under the anchor date. Just like our previous setup, this uses background formula. It compares the purchase date of the sale to your anchor date at the top. If the sales falls within the last week, it automatically tags the row with an L7 using the formula you see on the screen. By formatting your tab this way, when you drop the data and update the date, and the L7 tags instantly feed your 7-day average sales metric on the main dashboard. Please note that as we build out this template, we will be leveraging intermediate to advanced formula to make the automation work seamlessly. If we encounter a formula or a piece of logic today that you don't fully understand or need clarification, please let me know in the comment section. I will be glad to respond to your comments to explain it to you, or even create a completely separate video breaking down that specific function. But for today's tutorial, our main focus is going to be on mastering the core concepts and architecture of building a highly functional supply chain engine. Once you understand the workflow logic, the formula will fall right into place. Now we move to the most exciting part of this build. We're going to link our raw data tabs directly into our master inventory snapshots. We're building this formula so that the moment you drop new data into your raw tabs, this entire dashboard will instantly calculate your inventory health, your sales velocity, and exactly what you need to replenish. Automating product descriptions. Let's start with our core product information from the SKU column all the way through the cases per pallet. We absolutely do not want to type this out manually for every single product. Instead, we want the spreadsheet to do the heavy lifting for us. To achieve this, we're going to link the Snapshot columns directly to our master data tab using VLOOKUP functions. So let's do that. Using the formula you see on the screen, we're telling the system to take the SKU, find it in the Master tab, and automatically pull all the matching logistics and description data into this row. Once you enter the formula, you drag it down. Next, we need to bring our physical stock counts to life by updating the total inventory block. We do this using the sumIs function to pull from our raw data dumps. So main warehouse, to update their primary warehouse inventory, use the formula sumIs flashing on the screen right now. This searches your warehouse raw data tab for this specific SKU and posts the exact available count. Once entered, copy that formula all the way down the column. Fulfillment Center 1, we simply type equal to Y6, which is the total FC1 inventory, and drag the formula down to mirror that data. Fulfillment Center 2, we do the exact same thing for FC2. We set this cell equal to our FC2 total inventory, which is located at column EZ. So we type equal to AZ6 and drag it down. In transit stocks, to pull your future inventory that is still underwater or in production, use the sumIs formula you see on the screen now to link this column directly to your in-transit raw data tab. Finally, we need to calculate our grand total. We're going to add together the warehouse, FC1 and FC2 columns. Notice that we purposely did not add the in-transit stocks to this total. We only want this specific column to show the stocks that is physically available and ready for customers to buy right now. This will enable us to have a visibility on the total available for sale and total available incoming. But still, it is up to you if you want to make another column at the end to have a grand total of your inventory. Now we are going to link the FC1 or the Amazon raw data to our main snapshot using sumIs formula flashing on your screen. So let's start doing the formula for the available. Now let's do the formula for reserve. Next, we do the formula for the inbound working, ship, and receiving. Now finally, we get the total, so we simply add available, reserve, and the total inbound. Now we are going to link the FC1 sales to our raw data sales. Remember that we place a helper column on our FC1 sales raw data under column A. This is to separate the last 7 days of sales. On our Snapshot tab, we have a separate column for the 7-day average and the 30-day average. All of those which have the L7 here at column A on FC1 Sales Raw Data tab will all be sum under the 7-day. But since FC1 sales that we download from Amazon are within the 30-day sales, all of those, including the L7, will all be average and will be sum under this 30-day column. So let's start doing the formula. Use the separate formula flashing on your screen for the 7-day column and the 30-day column. In our part 1 of our video build, we explained what the purpose of this manual column. Instead of using the 30-day average, SRTUs now will be equal to manual. That is in case you'll be having promotions or you'll be having separate daily sales rate here. But by default, I will be using 30-day average SRTUs, which is the most reliable average to be used, so I link the column AE to column EC. Now let us work on the formula for the days of stock. Remember, these columns represent the equivalent days of stocks for our total inventory. Essentially, we are converting our total inventory into a usable time frame, which helps us determine exactly how many days of runway our stock provides. To get the results for the available column, we simply divide the total available units by the SRTUs. We follow the same process for inbound, dividing the total inbound units by SRTUs. Finally, we calculate the total by adding the available BOS and the inbound DOS together. To demonstrate this reliable results, I will now paste some raw data into our raw data tabs. After pasting the raw data, you can now see that our inventory on Amazon, including inbound shipments, has been updated. Most of these items are approaching or are already at the replenishment point, which will be our next topic. Remember, we have the lead time and replenishment point defined at the top. Let's take item number 1 as our example. Its days of stocks or DOS is 48.82. which is below our 50-day replenishment threshold. This indicates that we need to replenish this item immediately. To easily identify which items need replenishment, we can use conditional formatting. To do this, go to Home, Conditional Formatting, Manage Rules, New Rule. Then select Use Formula to determine which cells to format. In the Format Values where this formula is true field, type the formula flash on the screen. Next, click Format and select an orange highlight to alert us that it is time to replenish. Click OK. Then under Applies through field, select row 6 through 22. Then click Apply. You will now see that 5 items require replenishment today. Now let's move on to the replenishment formula. I provided a preview of this in part 1 of our video, but I will walk through it again so you can better grasp the details. You remember that our optimum level is 80, which is the sum of our lead time and replenishment point. This means our total final inventory should hover around this quantity. To calculate the acquired days, we subtract our total days of starts from 80. For item 1, this gives us 31.18, meaning we need to transfer 31.18 days worth of stocks to Amazon. This is equivalent to 22,285 units by multiplying 31.18 by SRTUs. Under the adjusted column, since we cannot send incomplete cases, we must round our required quantities so they are divisible by our units per case. This will increase the quantity slightly. So we divide the 22,285 units by our units per case, and then he round it up, and we get 892 cases. Finally, we convert this back into units. We are now transferring 22,300 units instead of 22,285. Then sure, the order is perfectly divisible by the case size. Now to double check, we want to see if this increase significantly impacts our days of star. We calculate our adjusted DOS by dividing the adjusted units again to SR the use. And you notice that it increases slightly from 31.18 to 31.20. When we check our final DOS, the sum of our existing DOS and our adjusted DOS, which gives us the total 80.0, which is right at our optimum level of 80. Now we copy the formula down. For item 2, the calculation suggests a transfer of 142 cases. However, since we haven't hit the replenishment point yet, we will wait until the DOS reaches 50 or below. In the future, in case Amazon changes rules when it comes to charges of overstocking and understocking, you can easily adjust the parameters above, and the rest of the formula on your snapshot will follow. To link the Fulfillment Center 2 snapshot to our FC2 raw data, follow the exact same logic we use for FC1. Simply apply the SUM-IFs formula, making sure to reference the raw inventory and sales data specifically dedicated to the Fulfillment Center 2. The logic here is modular. If you decide to add a third fulfillment center later, you just repeat the process. The formula remains consistent, just point your SUM-IFs to the new data tabs. And that wraps up our build for today. We've successfully automated your inventory tracking and replenishment engine. If you found value in this tutorial, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you're notified the second our next automation build drops. I'll see you again next Tuesday for another deep dive into supply chain optimization. Keep building, keep scaling, and let's command your operations.